Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Franchise Growth Show. I am your host, Joe Carter. Today, we are talking about a category that is growing very fast, senior care. But growth alone doesn't always create value because in service based franchises, especially in care, your ability to scale comes down to people, process, and consistency, not just demand. Revenue is a byproduct, but value is the ultimate objective. And value is created when your system can deliver consistent outcomes without being dependent on a single operator. And today I am thrilled to be joined by Delfino Salinas, the Director of Franchise Development at Caring Senior Care. Del, welcome to the show, sir. Absolutely. Let's jump right into it and kind of start with a little bit of context. Give us a quick overview of your role and your path into franchise development.
Yeah. So I'm director of franchise development with Caring Senior Service. I've been with Caring about 8 years now. And did I start in this role? I started in a different department working with owners on staffing their businesses and client acquisition and transitioned into this role. My direct experience with owners and their office teams, our clients, our caregivers, really gives me good insight into kind of speaking through what a day in life looks like, what it takes to get to a point of high level execution. And
Love that. I love that. Especially in senior care, it's not always just about the model. It's about quality, compliance in some ways, but the ability to scale. So from your experience working with those operators and everything, what separates senior care franchise brands that scale from others who may stall?
yeah, so it's really, and it's every franchise system's going to say this, but it's following systems and processes. And as an individual, you have to make a decision on one, which system is the best for you. It has to be a good match, so you feel confident and comfortable working in the system, and then with the people. And like any other organization, the people are what make it. And Caring Senior Service has great people. We have great owners. We have great office teams. We're very hands on. We do a lot of hand holding with our owners and do a lot more interaction with our owners than I think most franchise systems do. And that's a part of the culture of who we are. And so that helps you scale and get to that area where you hit a plateau and then accelerate up from there. And we're constantly looking for ways that we can improve the execution piece and how we can make the experience for our clients, our caregivers, our owners, our office teams better, from everything from a personal touch to working with AI and automation, different technology.
Love that. I love the fact that you said systems because you're absolutely correct. Systems can deliver consistent care, but without the systems, growth can create some breakdowns. So I love the fact that you said systems. That's awesome. There's certainly a very strong demand in senior care. The rise of people in kind of that senior care age range is just growing every single day. Statistics say it's going to grow even more in the next 3 to 5 years. So where do brands get it wrong when they try to scale too quickly, maybe?
Yeah, so it's deviation from that system and process. The need is there. You just spoke to that piece. The need is growing. There's nowhere in America there's enough home care businesses. This is something where we're going to continue to find more opportunities to provide care. When somebody gets into a spot where they're seeing high success and then try to deviate or do something a little different, that can cause opportunities. And then as you scale, you also have to change how you manage your business. So as you have more team members, more office staff, when you're growing into different communities and still not losing that personal touch that makes this business what it is. It's all about relationships, and you have to keep that piece a main part of it. So I think we see a lot of franchise systems that start off at that small scale, and then as you grow, getting back to the system and process, getting back to that tried and true bread and butter, getting back to what got you there, kind of reassessing. We made a focus a few years ago on fundamentals and getting back to fundamentals, and I think you'll find yourself in any organization having to come back to what got you there, and then reevaluating, modifying, and scale.
I love that. I love that. And I couldn't agree more. Fundamentals, I call it blocking and tackling, using a football reference, right? But if you can't block and tackle in football, you're probably not going to win very many games. And a similar conceptual idea is true in business, especially in franchise. High demand can showcase growth, but it can hide operational weakness if you're missing that. So I love that piece. What does real franchise development look like inside of a service-based model like you guys?
Yeah, so it's listening, it's understanding why somebody wants to get in this business, and then help them understand, navigate the process. We want anybody who's interested to get a good visualization of what it's going to take to be successful in this business and make sure it's a good fit for them and for us.
Love that. I love that. It's not always just opening more locations. It's building out some repeatable processes or systems, training your team so that they feel comfortable executing, and then delivering, a consistent delivery to your client or your customer. How about unit economics? Is generally one of the biggest things that a potential Z wants to talk through. So, what has to be true at a unit level for a senior care franchise to be viable? I can hear you good. Happy to go back and repeat. Can you hear me? Am I okay? Yes. Yeah. So unit economics, what has to be true at the unit level for a senior care franchise to be viable?
Yeah, so from a unit level, it's again going back to the system and process and staying true to really the staffing model. So for us, it's having the office team in place so that they can execute, their daily, weekly, monthly tasks. And that might sound kind of simple, but that's really the hardest piece of the business is having the right people in those roles. And first of all, having somebody in those roles, like any business or organization, you might find yourself in a position as an owner where you're doing multiple roles, and it's difficult to wear more than one hat when there's specific things to get done. You just physically can't be in two places at once. So it's taking a step back and focusing on the people piece, having those roles staffed, and then validating they're doing what they need to do. And that's really what this business is all about. Not just the clients and caregivers, but your office team and building.
I love that. Team delivers results. Having the right team accelerates results. Having the wrong team decelerates results. But you have the right team doing the wrong things and have some mixture of both. So, what are the things that are done to ensure a franchisee is actually profitable within that team, not just op?
Yeah, so there's some black and white metrics that we look at. Going back to the tasks those roles do. Right, the business is simple. I won't say easy, but simple. It's getting caregivers, getting clients, then providing care. And then over 35 years of this business, we have those systems and processes in place where you simply have to do those tasks. And going back to the people in those roles, it's going out and talking to people in your community. People don't know about our business. Nobody teaches us in our 30s, 40s, even 50s and 60s that you might need this business. It's when something happens to a loved one or ourselves. At that point, we're needing this care, and it's brand new to people. No one knows what to expect, and so you need somebody in the community who's educating, who's sharing information, so that when this need arises, they know who can call, and at that point.
Still there, Dale. We lost Dale for a second, everybody. I'm sure he will be back in any moment now. As soon as he is, we'll dive right back into it. Apologies for the technical difficulty. Some of the things I think he was talking about was ensuring your labor's tight, having training, scheduling inefficiencies, closing those gaps so that you have the capacity to compound quickly and continue to grow or scale. Dale, are you back with us? Can you hear? Can you hear me? All right, he dropped off, everybody, and we'll be back momentarily, I'm sure. Hey, Dale. All right. Yeah, we're back. We're back.
Apparently,
Uh,
the building lost the internet connection, so I'm on my hotspot right now. So
no,
gotta
no
have backups
worries.
to backups.
No worries. We'll cut this portion out so it doesn't even look
All
like
right.
he dropped off. So
So we're
we were talking through kind of the profitability side. What makes franchisees actually profitable versus just operate?
Yeah, so it goes back to the systems and processes and the people piece, and having those people in those roles in the office doing their daily, weekly, and monthly tasks. Right. So the need is always going to be there. There's a growing need for home care services. There's always going to be people that want to provide care, and so the work is always there. The need's always there to become profitable and scale. It's really managing the business piece of it. So growing the hours, right? Hours is the metric in home care. It's just not clients, and it's growing your brand. It's making yourself aware in the community. So those three roles that we have within Caring Senior Service focuses on that community engagement, going out and visiting every referral source possible. Because a lot of people don't know about our business. Right? A lot of people don't know what home care is until they need it. Nobody tells us in our, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s what this is. It's always something happens and then people find out, oh, I need this kind of help. What is this? And so it's all about educating the community, letting people know how this business works. Many people who don't understand or know, how would they pay for the service? They get quite confused and a bit even upset when they hear that it's not covered by most insurances. It's not covered by other house payment. It's coming out of their pocket. And what does this look like for them to keep their loved one in a place where they can remain healthy, happy, and home? So to scale profitability is really educating the community, having team members available to provide great care, and focusing just as much on your staff as you do on your clients, or more so. So, and that's hard, right? It's not easy to work with people. They all have lives outside of work, right? They have families, health, kids, school, other jobs, transportation. And so it's understanding what that looks like and being compassionate with your team so that they want
I love that. Process discipline, labor management or leadership, and then client, both kind of teaching, coaching, understanding, but then certainly retaining clients as well once you have them, all creates the capacity for a scalable, profitable system. Where do most operators like underestimate the cost or the complexity of your model?
Yeah, the most is really the people piece, the complexity. And I'll go back to simple but not easy. One example is a lot of people who are leaving maybe corporate America or have been in different maybe roles in their current professions or careers, never worked with hourly workers, never worked with people from a different socioeconomical background, and understanding what that looks like, understanding the complexity of people management, and going back to that compassion with your team, and understanding that they're only working for you when there's a client that matches their skill set, availability, or talent they can work at. If they're normally the parent that stays home with the child because the other parent or spouse is the breadwinner of the family, and something happens with little Johnny, and they got to pick up their child from school, and now they can't go to your client's home, the correct response should be, take care of little Johnny. We got you. We're going to take care of your client, and let me know how everything goes. It shouldn't be along the lines of, well, can't somebody else pick up little Johnny? We understand there's a business to run, but you got to understand they have a life that's important to them as well. And you have to show that compassion. And that can be frustrating for a business owner or somebody who's managing clients, because you want to provide great service. You want to provide the opportunity for revenue and sales to grow. But the most important piece is the people piece. And that's hard, right? So understanding that you have to have, backup plans upon backup plans, contingencies when that happens. At the end of the day, understanding that your people are what's most important, and that need's always going to be there.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I love that. Um, and generally speaking, in this type of a service-driven system, quality, compliance, consistency, but really your team is kind of the where the buck stops. If they're doing the right things, you're probably getting the right results. If they're doing the wrong things, they're probably getting the wrong results, most likely.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
about income? Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I
please.
was just gonna piggyback on that, you'll hear a lot of times there's a caregiver shortage or recruitment issue, and there's not. There's plenty of caregivers. There's a retention issue. We're going back to, not every owner is the best boss or manager, and it goes back to that magic people piece.
100%. Yeah. Generally, people do not leave jobs, they leave managers or leaders. Is, I think, the old term that's been around for decades or something, but it's still true, very much so to this day. What helps to create that consistency, whether at the leadership level, at the team level, across operators in a very people-driven business like this? What are those consistency things?
Yeah, so the first one is going back to the compassion piece, having the compassion for this business. And you had asked earlier about the franchise development part, and I mentioned listening, understanding their why, and understanding that the compassion for this business is not just for the client, but also for the caregiver and the office staff and the community. And that piece is what really guides and leads that success rate of people retention and growth. And then it's following the systems and processes. So I could say this all day. And what does that mean? Well, how do you validate that piece? So we have objective metrics within our system where if you're doing this, it'll show that. And so it's having those conversations, having those reviews, having those certifications, ongoing training is part of our culture, and having the engagement and activities between owners and caregivers and office teams. If you're doing those touch points and understanding what your team knows and doesn't know, what they need, where they want to be, having those touch.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Couldn't agree more, especially in training. Ongoing training, not just the when you're a brand new hire or a brand new Z training, but the ongoing training allows you to really scale with intention. So I love that. Obviously, you're in franchise development, but some of the things that a new potential franchisee looks at is not just the development side, but the support side. So, what does a strong franchisor support look like in practice?
Yeah, so in practice, it looks like communication regularly, right? Early and often, right? No, people don't know what they don't know, right? And a new owner coming in has really no clue of what they're stepping into. And so we come back to one, you have the passion for the business. Two, do you want to follow the model and system? Part of what we do is walk you through step by step every part of the business. So you meet with me at the beginning, but then you meet our team throughout our discovery process, and you're working with our team once I hand off, and you work with our team. We have a very strong, deep team within Caring Senior Service. Our touch points and interactions with our owners, I think, are probably higher than most franchise systems. And it looks like those communications. It looks like the ongoing checkpoints, the checking in, the asking questions. It has to be a two-way engagement, right? It has to be the owner wanting to engage with us as well, and understanding that you're joining a franchise system to get that engagement, that you want to follow the system and process, that you want to validate you're doing the things the right way. And so meeting with us and our team, our marketing team, our business development team, our accounting team, our training team, our teams working with client caregiver acquisition, working with all these teams to understand those objective metrics to validate success, utilizing the franchise system and all of our support. That's what a good support system looks like.
I love that. I love that. So, obviously, a franchisee selecting your brand to move forward with is one step of the equation. But the other step is you all ensuring that it's the right person for your model. So, what are the things that you look for in the right franchisee in your senior care franchise model?
The first part is listening. I mentioned earlier about me listening, but it's got to be someone who also listens, right? Someone who takes direction and can give direction. And part of what we want to see is someone who listens to understand, and someone that feels comfortable and confident with our systems and processes. I mean, again, the business is simple, but someone has to want to do the work. And this is a 100% relationship driven business. You have to want to build those relationships, and you have to listen. You have to understand what your clients are saying. You're talking to people that are in distressed, emotional times when they're dealing with a loved one who is going through either end of life or a transition that's difficult. And so they're looking for help and support, and being able to be compassionate to that. On the same note, your caregivers are also going through things in their lives and being compassionate to them as well. So we're looking for people who have that passion for all that part of the business. And
I love that. That's amazing. Alignment matters more than background. And generally speaking, a brand is looking for somebody who can follow systems, manage or lead their team, and execute the system consistently. And it sounded like that's exactly what you said. So I love that. Um, how do you filter out those kind of potential wrong operators early on in the process?
yeah, so it's having those conversations to understand the why, and then sharing what this is going to look like. So you might have somebody who has a great heart for providing care. That's awesome. We find a lot of folks who have that, but maybe don't have the I won't say the heart, but maybe the gut to really manage the people piece of it. That's really the hardest part of the business, is managing the people piece. And so being very open and honest and realistic about what a day in life looks like, making sure the person understands that they're not just a business owner, but they're part of their community. They're part of their caregiver family. They're understanding the trials, tribulations, the excitement that their clients and caregivers are going through every day. And as we share that with our owner candidates, we get a good understanding if that's something that they will be successful with, if they want to do that, right? And understanding what that looks like. And so we're very open and honest up front about what to expect. And throughout those conversations, we get to a point.
That oh, that now opposite end of the spectrum. What attracts a strong operator to a brand like yours?
Yeah. So again, the people piece. I'll tip our hat to our marketing department on that. It's been great content out there, and people that do their due diligence. See a lot of great feedback from owners, from clients, and those that do their due diligence see that our success is from our people. And so strong candidates start with proper due diligence and research to see what they're potentially buying into, and then asking the right questions to say, okay, what, differentiates you from somebody else, and for us, it's really three pieces. One, it's our people. I've talked about that multiple times already, but our people make who we are, and it's got to be a good fit for them and for us. So understanding our culture is a big piece. And then understanding our model, our great care model of 35 years of business and what it takes to take a caregiver from start to finish, and take a client from start to finish, working with the communication families, understanding what that looks like.
Love that. I love that. Strong operators generally looking for some predictability, a strong level of support, the capacity to scale. So I love that you touched on all of those, but really the people piece is how you ensure those things occur. Um, a lot of the being a broker myself, a lot of the clients that I work with, I at least attempt to get them to kind of begin with the end in mind a little bit. What does the exit look like on the back end of this potential investment? So, at what point does a senior care franchise become attractive from an investment or even a valuation standpoint?
Yeah, so being profitable, of course, is going to be a big area you look at to exit. And to your point, we start with the end in mind. When someone's talking with me, we bring up, you know, what's your exit strategy look like? You know, how long do you want to do this business? What is your why? Are you doing this for, a good career that's profitable, that you can do something you love with rewarding passion and leave? Are you looking for building an asset and then selling that asset? Are you looking for building something for your kids and have some generational wealth? Usually it falls from one of those three buckets that somebody's looking to go into business. And it only makes sense for us to understand their why so that we can work with them to get to that point. And usually by their third, fourth, fifth year, they're running. They're doing quite well. They're looking into some good profitability where they could potentially attract people that want to enter and then sell for their investment, make some good profit. And then if it's 10 or 15 years down the road when they've built their brand and their community to a very high level, it becomes very attractive to somebody coming in the space. Also with the growth that we talked about earlier, senior population, doubling in the next 20 years, more and more people coming into the space. When you have a system that works, you have a model that works, when you have revenue already coming in, you have profitability, people in place, it's very attractive for someone to walk in and take that over.
Love that. I love that. And generally, anybody who's trying to create long term, whether it's recurring revenue streams, residual income, or an asset to ultimately exit and sell off, you're generally looking at recurring revenue streams, a low operator variability, and strong client retention. And everything I've ever seen about y'all's brand, checkbox on all three of those. So amazing job. Somebody follows the system and executes very well, they can absolutely generate high level of value through your system. But where do founders maybe leave some value on the table? Or maybe some of the disconnects that happen as they get into that third, fourth, fifth year, they're being profitable, but to get to that next kind of exit level thing in 10, 15 years, whatever it may be, where are possibly the disconnects that occur?
Yeah, it's like any business organization, it's easy to get sucked into it, right? It's easy to get into the whirlwind of business and become um, more in the box and outside the box, looking at what's going on. You can be very successful, managing 20 or 30 clients and get to a point to where you're very profitable, where you're doing over a million in revenue. Our offices average 1.2 million in revenue. And again, the focus can be very direct with your clients, the client's family, and that can be great. You can get to a point to where you do that very well with our systems and process. It can become very, I don't want to say easy, but it comes to a point to where you're performing very well. You're achieving at a high level, and now you're really running good. And to make that next jump is going to take almost as much effort as when you started. Right. So to make that next jump into another territory or into growth of market, you have to take a step back, pull yourself out of that comfort zone you've been in, and now reevaluate what's it going to take to double or triple what I'm doing right now. And so it's going back to the people piece, adding personnel, doing that training, modifying your role. And a lot of people in this space, like owners, enjoy that one-on-one connection with their clients and their caregivers. And you really have to remove yourself from that. You have to have people that can do what you do now and train what you do. And so it's a part of the business that are pros and cons to that, right? Because you want to have that one-on-one time with your clients and caregivers, and you're doing very well profitability wise, and you're doing fantastic. And the opportunity to scale is there, but your role now has to shift a little bit to managing multiple businesses. And there's only so much time in a day to where you can touch everybody, and so you have to manage that piece. And that can be a bit disheartening for someone who loves that interaction. And so, as an owner, you have to make that decision on what's
All of that. Yeah, the transition from operator to owner is it's a challenging one for plenty of people. been there myself multiple times. But in order to get to a truly scalable system, you got to be able to make that leap. It may be uncomfortable, but they don't feel like growing pains for nothing. Dell, this was fire, my friend. If anybody who's listening is like, this sounds great, I want some more info. How do they reach out to you and your team? Love that. Are you cool if we put those hyperlinks in like the commentary and stuff for the video? Awesome. I love it. Yeah, this was fire, my friend Dell. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for being flexible as well in the scheduling of this. Here was my biggest takeaway, and that is there's a humongous demand that's going to only increase in the senior care space, but demand alone does not build a franchise or a set scalable system. Ultimately, it's the system and the people that execute the system that do it. In a business like senior care, where consistency and care matters, you don't get the luxury of scaling without that structure in place. So without the systems, you don't scale. Without scale, you don't create value. Because revenue is a byproduct. Systems create the value. The documentation will protect it. And at the end of the day, the accountability will sustain it for the long term. So if you're out there and you're serious about building a scalable, sellable franchise, this is absolutely one you should take a look at. Reach out to Dell and his team to get more information, or feel free to visit our website, twinflametx.com, and apply for our advisory. Thank you to everybody who's listening in. Thank you to Dell for joining us as well today. I'm Joe Carter. This is the Franchise Growth Show, and we can't wait to see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everyone. What do you think, man?
Yeah.